Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. Welcome back to Destiny. Let's talk about the Sleeper Simulant. Finally got my hands on my Sleeper Simulant just the other day. Turns out it's only a 24-hour or one-day reset cycle until you can start the second part of the quest that requires you to complete a 280 version of the Saber Strike, and then boom, there you go. Sleeper Simulant is finally yours. Now, there's a lot to talk about regarding the Sleeper Simulant, and I want to try and cover it all in this video, give you guys my impressions of the weapon, and talk about, in general, why I actually love this thing. A lot of controversy surrounding this exotic in terms of its performance, and so many other things, so let's try and break all of it down. First and foremost, the Sleeper Simulant is one of the first exotics that we knew about in the Taken King. Game Informer did an entire article on it, talking about its design with a lot of interview and questions, little bits and pieces, directly from Bungie, discussing designing an exotic weapon. It was something that we all knew about, and I think it immediately caught our eye because it is a rather gorgeous and stunning weapon. I mean, look at the design on this thing. I love it, honestly. For the design alone, it feels like so much work went into crafting every single individual component of it. I can only imagine the process of concept art to, 3D render, sort of white box to full in-game version of this thing. It had to be a ton of work. There's just so many small details that I really truly appreciate, down to all of those individual wires and cables running throughout the weapon. It is gorgeous. There's a lot to love about this thing in that aspect. Now, in a lot of ways, that Game Informer article and a lot of other small pieces of coverage for the Sleeper Simulant early on had a lot of people believing that this was very much going to be the replacement for Gjallarhorn. It was just kind of a buzzword that started going around, and people were expecting this to be sort of the end-all, be-all of exotic weapons. And I think a lot of people very much did want to see it perform as well as the Year 1 version of Gjallarhorn did, because there are a lot of people that I don't think fully understand how bad Year 1 Gjallarhorn actually was for Destiny. It was broken, it was overpowered, overused, and it was used to abuse a lot of the missions and challenges in Destiny during that course of time. It was not good, especially for the Prison of Elders. How many people nuked Taniks, as well as many of the other PoE bosses on hard mode with Gjallarhorn, or Gjallarhorn, however you want to call it. It was not a good weapon, and I'm very glad that the Sleeper Simulant does not fall alongside of Gjallarhorn in being exceptionally overpowered. And I hope that we never see another weapon like that ever again. Please, in Destiny. Maybe if there's something that happens on accident, but let's patch that thing right away. We don't need another Gjallarhorn. We really do not. Outside of all of that, there just was a lot of hype surrounding the weapon. A lot of people wanted this thing to just be crazy, and for some reason, some people thought that they didn't get what they expected. I can't say I feel the same way. Sleeper Simulant to me has been quite a treat. Now, when I look at an exotic weapon, I like to break it down in two different pieces of criteria. When I look at an exotic weapon and I say, I'm going to use that because I like it, here are the two reasons that I end up using that weapon. Number one, performance does matter. I want this thing to actually do pretty well, but at the same time, if the performance is subpar for an exotic, it may be able to make its way into my inventory, into my weapon selection screen, if its visual presentation, its personality and styling can overwhelm its poor or mediocre performance. This is very much the case of the Chaperone for me. Not really an outstanding shotgun in a lot of ways. It's a bit of a challenge in the Crucible, and it really doesn't hit hard or nearly as hard as a lot of other legendary shotguns that are available. But when it comes to style, when it comes to personality, oh, does the Chaperone have it in heaps. The whip of that reload gets me every time, and for that reason, I carry the Chaperone into a lot of situations that frankly, I probably shouldn't. And the same can be said for the Sleeper Simulant for me. I love this thing to death from a visual standpoint. I love the audio design. I love everything that has been done with it in an audiovisual presentation. And to be honest, it hits wicked hard. This is not a mediocre weapon when it comes to power. It can really throw down the hammer, and you see that in the footage I have here. Lots of huge crits on ultras, even took it into the daily heroic to mess with Oryx, and it performed really well. Now, I don't have the entire perk tree unlocked, so let's talk a little bit about the perks for the Sleeper Simulant, though. Of course, it has its signature perk, which is the ability to penetrate multiple enemies, as well as the ability to ricochet off hard surfaces. Its final perk, Activate Kelios, allows you to ricochet multiple times off of hard surfaces. Very much an exotic perk, and I have to admit, a lot of the exotic perks this year have become very specific in terms of weapons and equipment, and I think that's kind of just the direction that Bungie has to go. There's a lot to balance when it comes to making exotic perks because the weapons are available for use in the Crucible. They have to really think about the design of these. They have to make sure it's not overpowered in Crucible, and also that it's not overpowered and used in a PvE setting. Beyond its amount of damage, they again also have to look at the perks. I mean, look what Wolfpack rounds actually did for Gjallarhorn in year 1. That was a huge part of why that thing was so powerful. It wasn't just the base damage, it was that combination of Wolfpack rounds and that high base damage. So a lot of thought has to go into that. So I accept its damage, and I also accept that perk. While it may seem very specific, I'm okay with exotic weapons having perks like that. I think that exotic weapons should be more about interesting mechanics, very specific situation uses, and generally just being fun. I don't think they have to be about being powerhouses all the time, so I'm okay with that set of perks, and I can see myself having some fun ricocheting some rounds off some walls, trying to kill some opponents in a tight-knit corridor, whether it be in Crucible or in a PvE situation. Now, there is one thing that I personally feel could be buffed a little bit, or at least balanced is, I guess, would be the best way to put it. Sleeper Simulant has a 3-round magazine with a 4-round reserve, so 7 rounds in total. Now, I'm okay with the 3-round magazine. Again, considering how hard this thing actually can hit, it's really great for bosses. Really, that's the #1 place to use this. Ultras and bosses, deal out the damage, you know, just 10 times better than just about any other heavy weapon that I currently have equipped anyways. It is really powerful. It's up there with Black Spindle and the amount of damage that I can do, the amount of DPS I can do. So I understand the 3-round magazine, but I would like to see a little bit more in the reserves. It kind of feels like they're trying to bounce this thing, you know, in between exotic sniper and exotic rocket launcher in terms of the way they've kind of crafted the amount of ammunition it can hold. I'd like to see its reserves be more along the side of something like the Black Spindle, maybe, you know, 10 rounds. You know, just a little bit more in that backup, because the thing's great when you have ammunition for it, but you do find yourself burning through heavy ammo quite a lot when using this. It doesn't hold that much, so if you really want to make use of it to chew down enemies, you are going to have to use some synths or just get lucky seeing heavy ammo drop from ultras and majors during the course of a boss fight. That does seem to be the case. A lot of heavy ammo does really drop in. Maybe if you're running something like Ruin Wings as a Titan, that's the perfect combination for staying in the fight with the Sleeper Simulant. At the end of the day, maybe it was a really big design decision from Bungie. You know, I wasn't there when they made that choice to have only a 7-round total capacity on the Sleeper Simulant. Maybe that was the sweet spot they found. Honestly, for me, pushing all of the, you know, sort of upset behind and all of the, you know, concerns about the Sleeper Simulant, I absolutely love this weapon. I've only got to spend about an hour with it, only ran 1 daily heroic with it, and I have fallen in love with it. Again, I really appreciate the visual design of the weapon, the sound of it, just this weird sort of role that it feels is this crazy heavy fusion rifle railgun in my heavy slot. I'm all over that, and I can promise you that I'm going to have a lot of trouble picking my Black Spindle over this just for the sake of DPS. I'm probably going to find myself causing a few self-inflicted deaths, maybe even the deaths of some of my raid members, because I'd rather use the Sleeper Stimulant. Sleeper Simulant, yeah, the Sleeper Stimulant. That'd be a good name for it, the Sleeper Simulant. So for me, guys, I mean, this weapon's a go-to. I really want to hear what you have to say about it. If you managed to pick up your very own Sleeper Simulant, has it visually impressed you? Has the performance impressed you? Is it something that you're keeping locked into your inventory, getting ready to level it up and try out all the available perks? Or is it something that you've already cast into your vault, is just another collectible? Let me know all of your thoughts and more regarding the Sleeper Simulant down in the comment section below, and I hope to see you out there over-penetrating some enemies, bouncing some lasers off some wall, and just having a good time with one of the most damn sexy exotics we've seen in Destiny since the launch of this game.